Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. So in my last video, I talked about my first inpatient stay at a behavioral health hospital. I didn't get into too many details, mainly because it was a really positive experience considering the horrific shit that led up to it. But today I want to get into something a little juicier. I want to talk about my second and hopefully final psych ward stay. Let's get into it. So 2019 was my first inpatient stay. It was voluntary. I didn't know what to expect, but I was in desperate, horrible need of help. I really needed help, and I still do. Nothing's changed. But in 2020, a year later, I ended up having to go back to the psych ward again. Now, as I'm sure you all remember, this was when COVID really kicked off in America. So it was a horrible time to be hospitalized, obviously. Thank God it wasn't a medical hospital, but nonetheless, it was not a good time to be thrusted into the health world at all. So 2019, first inpatient stay, I was basically able to stay there a week. I wish I'd stayed longer, but it's fine. You have responsibilities in the real world. You can't just stay in a cushiony hospital forever. But I was there for a week. It's what really jump-started my sobriety, and it's what forced me to have a week of sobriety. I had not been able to stay clean for a week at all. And so because of that hospital stay, I had a week sober, and that gave me a lot of strength. It taught me what Narcotics Anonymous was. It got me into groups outside the hospital. And that's when I really started to take my sobriety way more seriously. So fast forward now 2020. At this point, it's not like I was a year sober now. It wasn't anything like that. But I had accumulated about 6 months of sobriety. I was not using drugs. I have to think about it, sorry. If I was, it was like weed and it was recreational. So I was doing pretty good. However, something ended up happening to me where I was seeing a psychiatrist and she was giving me medications. Now, I wasn't very open with my healthcare professionals about my self-injury because I just was very, very ashamed and very embarrassed, and I had had therapists in the past who I'd kind of told them, and they were just really mean about it. Like, I've been asked some really invasive, disgusting questions about self-injury. As the patient, I should not be being asked these really grotesque, weird questions to like fulfill your sick curiosity. And that's kind of what my exposure was. So I didn't really talk a lot about it to my psych. I slowly started to. And she decided that it might be the perfect idea to just load me up with a lot of medications that treated bipolar. Now, after this second psych ward stay, it was revealed to me that I was diagnosed as borderline. I was never bipolar. I did not experience mania, and but my depressive episodes were so severe and lasted for so long that she kind of just thought maybe I was bipolar. I'm not bipolar. If you're not bipolar and you're on some heavy bipolar meds, that's probably not going to end well. I was on a shitload of lithium amongst like 8 other psychiatric medications. It was bad. She was overloading me. She was doing her best, I'm sure. I don't know. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt because sometimes we're all just guinea pigs, but it was at a point in my life where I was on a tremendous amount of medications. I was not using drugs or anything or drinking. And I was actually losing my mind. My self-injury at this time got really bad, and I ended up entering psychosis. Now, I know psychosis is thrown around a lot on TikTok. Let me be very clear with you. Psychosis is not quirky. It's not funny. It's not glamorized. It's horrible. Psychosis is fucking horrible, and I've had people in my family who have experienced that, and they become someone you don't recognize. I mean, it's scary and it's heartbreaking. You're losing people, and I was losing myself. I was having very severe delusions, and I was having almost like, I don't have OCD, but I'm going to compare it to OCD. I was having like OCD compulsions to hurt myself, and I was under the delusion that if I were to hurt myself, somehow I was sacrificing something, like, in order to gain something good. So I would hurt myself because I felt like something bad would happen if I didn't, if that makes sense. So I was very, 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 like, I was not thinking straight at this time. And what had happened is I heard, it's not like a voice, like I didn't hear like a voice like outside my head talking, but it was this voice inside me that was telling me, if you hurt yourself in this way, in this capacity, I will not let anything bad happen to you until this day. That's what I was thinking and feeling. And so I believed it. So I went, okay, if I do this right now, I'll be okay until like Wednesday or so. It was fucking crazy. So I did it, and it was really bad. And I said, oh shit. And so I went to the urgent care down the street. Now, I had been to this urgent care before for a similar issue. They patched me up. They sent me on my way. No two ways about it. It was simple. So I thought, okay, whatever. I kind of messed up, went a little too crazy. But I did it. I'm good. The compulsion's over. I can breathe. I'm going to go get myself patched up and I'm going to go home. So I was in my pajamas. I got my slippers on and I went to the urgent care and I sat in the lobby. And they said, why are you here? And I said, I hurt myself. And they said, oh, on accident? I said, no. They were like, okay, take a seat. So, I didn't feel weird about it. They knew I did this. So they called me back to the room and the nurse was like, so what's going on? And I said, I hurt myself. And she said, okay, on purpose? And I said, yeah. I wasn't this joyous about it. I'm sorry. I was not joyous about it. I'm just trying to tell the story, and it's hard to tell the story. And if you're like me, you insert humor where emotions get difficult. So if I'm smiling and I'm laughing, it's not funny. I don't think it's funny. I have a hard time talking about these things without turning it into something funny. It's just how I cope. I don't know why I'm like this. I just am. But I said, no, I didn't do it. I didn't do it on accident. I did it on purpose. And they said, why? I said, well, I wanted to be okay until Wednesday. And they were like, what do you mean? I said, well, the voice said that if I do this, I'll be fine until Wednesday, and I wanted to be fine, and so I did it. And they were like, okay. I was like, thank you for being honest. Like, can you hold on 1 second? I was like, yeah, sure. And so they left, and I'm sitting there, and they had like one of the other nurses like sit with me and kind of like babysit me a little. I just thought she was making conversations. I was sitting there talking to her. The main lady comes back in the room and says, look, I can't let you leave today. I've called the crisis team and I need you to stay until they arrive. Can you do that? Sure. I mean, yeah, I had nothing going on that day. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. And so I waited, and this lady babysat me and we chit-chatted a little bit, and I don't really remember what we talked about because that was like 6 years ago, so I don't remember what we talked about. It was just small talk. The next thing I know, these big dudes, police officer, ambulance guy, like all these people walk in the room, and I'm like, oh shit. And I was feeling a lot of emotions. It's very shaky. I wanted to cry. I was kind of holding it together, and they were so nice to me. I mean, I've not had a lot of good experiences with police officers normally, or EMT people. Anyway, but they were very, very nice to me, and they looked at my medication list and they said, damn girl, you're on a lot of meds. I just started bawling. I was like, yes. They were like, do you feel like that's not helping you? And I said, I don't think it's helping. I'm just crying. And they're like, look, we want to take you somewhere where you can be safe. Do you think you can be safe? And I looked at them, and I looked at my injury, and I looked at them, and I said, honestly, I'm scared that I'm going to accidentally myself. I'm scared. I really, I don't want to be doing this. It's not an impulse, like, ooh, I want to dye my hair. No, it's a compulsion. And with a compulsion, you don't have to want it or desire it. You just have to fucking do it. And that's what I was experiencing. And I told them, I'm scared I'm going to end up myself because I can't control myself. I'm losing my mind. And that's all they needed to hear. So they were trying to throw me in the back of the ambulance and take me somewhere. And they were like, oh, where we're taking you is very nice. It's very, it'll be great. I've heard great things about it. Let's go. And despite my psychosis, An American will know, I can't afford a fucking ambulance ride. I'm not going in that ambulance, but you have insurance. I don't care. It ain't that good. I'm not going in the ambulance. I'm not going in the ambulance. You can't make me go in the ambulance. I'm not going to do it. That'll tell you anything about being an American, that you can be off your rocker and you still know a bitch can't afford a fucking ambulance. So I was like, no, don't put me in the fucking ambulance. So, you know, the crisis team was also there, and they said, what if we took you in our van? Would you go with us if you were in the van? My car was still parked in the parking lot. I was like, what? I'm still in my pajamas. I don't even have shoes on. They're slippers. They're not even shoes. So I was just like, holy shit, dude, this is actually happening. But I just knew that I couldn't keep myself safe. And I knew that my first experience in the inpatient psych ward was good. It was positive. And so I thought to myself, maybe they can help me. And they were reassuring me that this place was very good. So they didn't even bandage me up. They sent me on my way immediately. And I said, well, what about, and they said, they'll take care of it there. Fine. So I get in the little van, and it was kind of like a little, like, if you've ever been in the back of a cop car, don't ask. Anyway, if you've ever been in the back of a cop car, you know they've got those little gated, it's like gated, you know what I mean? Like you're in a little like gated box. Plus this was during COVID. So not only was it all gated, but there was like a plastic thing. It was weird. I don't even understand how that would have helped anything, but that's what they did. So I felt very confined in the back of this van. You know, I had my phone, you know, I was listening to music, and I was just kind of trying to accept that I was about to be admitted to a hospital. At this point, I didn't understand that I'm just going to call it a 5150. That's not what it was. I'm not from California, but I'm just going to call it that because I don't remember what it was called. But they basically 5150'd me, but I didn't know that. They didn't tell me that. They were just like, you know, they asked if I wanted to go, and I said yes. So I was under the assumption it was voluntary. It was not. So I went with them. It's very fuzzy. They kind of dropped me off. They immediately got me into the waiting room. And in that waiting room, I still had to sit there for hours, but it was a locked waiting room. I couldn't leave. I was locked in there. There was no opening the door and leaving. I was completely confined. But that didn't really scare me because I wanted to be there. So in the waiting room, really struggling with my eating disorder at this time. Again, I wasn't diagnosed as anorexic, but I was severely malnourished. I was underweight. I was just very consumed with numbers. They tried to bring me food in the waiting room. I couldn't eat it. I was trying. It was tater tots. I love tater tots. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. So I'm in the waiting room, you know, they're talking to me about my medication list, and they just were not professional. They were talking to me as if I worked in healthcare. They were like, what are your PRNs? My what? I don't know what the fuck that means. PRN? What does that mean? I had no idea. And a PRN is a medication you take as needed, like ibuprofen. I had no idea what they were talking about. I thought they meant your PM, like your medications you take at night. So I was telling them the meds I take every day at night as a PRN. And they were like, okay. You didn't question maybe why I'm taking a Seroquel as needed? You don't take Seroquel as needed. You take it so it builds up in your system. Did they speak to me in a way that would make a normal person understand what they were talking about? No. So that was strike one. It was bad. So I was like, whatever. Eventually they got me in there. I don't even know if my medications were correct. I was so beyond mentally fucked, and they were pulling me off of, I think they were pulling me off of lithium. I don't even remember. I don't even remember what pills I was taking. They would just give me my cup and I would throw it back. I didn't even understand what was going on. But they brought me to the ward finally. Unlike my first stay, where I had a nice room, it was just my room, I had my own bathroom, this was a shared room. And so you share it with the same sex. So I was sharing a room with another girl who I liked a lot. She was struggling really fucking bad, and she was very eccentric, very weird, was always singing, just very like passionate and flirty. Like she was cool. I liked her, like something about her I liked. And that first night I was crying my eyes out. I couldn't sleep, and she like couldn't sleep either. So she gave me her pillow and insisted that I sleep with 2 pillows so I could be more comfortable. And she was just a really nice person. I don't even remember her name, but I think about her a lot, and I hope that she's okay wherever she's at. But so, you know, I was in the ward, I met her, she was nice. All the other people there just kind of stayed to themselves. You know, I didn't really talk to any of the men. Again, why would I? I was talking mainly to the women. There wasn't a lot of women there. There was another girl. She was really sweet, kind of shy and awkward. She had a Doodle Bob tattoo. I was like, I like you already, dude. I love SpongeBob. Like, we're friends already. She was cool. And, but the only other girl there was this one chick, and she was always hogging the radio. Because you can't have your phone, you can't listen to music unless you have these headphones that are like attached to the radio. And they only had like 2 headphones, and there was like 20 of us on a ward. What? And so she would hog them constantly, and I don't like confrontation, so I didn't say anything. But she was interesting, man. She was really kind of like, didn't really talk to anybody. This chick, I couldn't believe what I had seen. She dislocates her arm. I didn't even know you could do that. She dislocates her arm so she can go to the hospital and get fentanyl and get sent back. And she was so proud of herself. I mean, her arm was in a sling. I was like, Jesus, dude, why'd you do that? Are you okay? She's like, oh yeah, man, but they gave me some good stuff, man. They gave me good stuff. It was so great. Okay. For what? So I was like, all right, that's cool. And she was on a one-on-one for the rest of the time that I was there. I was like, all right, don't fuck with her. Clearly. She's not to be messed with. So I didn't bother her at all after that. I left her alone. So that was horrific. But it was just terrible. I mean, there was nothing to do. No activities. They had the TV, but the men would hog the TV. You can't argue with them. There's grown-ass men, huge grown-ass men. I'm like, I'm not gonna ask them to put on something funny and lighthearted. They're watching like action movies, which is like not something I care about. So I was like, whatever. So there's no TV. They had nothing to color with. I mean, you couldn't even color. They had like this little pack of shitty markers that were all dried out. They were like, oh, there's supplies underneath the TV in the cabinet. I opened the cabinet. Everyone's like, get the fuck out of the way. Sorry, I'm trying to find something to occupy my time, you know. And there was nothing to do. I mean, my God, thank God one of the nurses, I went over to the counter and they were like, piss off, you can't be over here. But I was, you know, I was like, what you doing? And she was doing a word search. I said, oh, I love word searches. Oh, that's fun. Oh, and she like was like, okay. And like, she pitied me. So she gave me a single page and oh, it was so wonderful. It was the best like 20 minutes of my life doing that word search, not a crossword. I'm not that smart. It was the best word search ever. I was so happy. I was so happy to be doing something that was relatively fun. And then the groups they had, oh God, the groups that they had. The groups were like, you know, when you're having a hard time, just like, be happy. Like, life is good. Think of all the good things in your life. And like 99% of people there have horrible fucking lives. So they're like, there's not much to go off of. And it was just ridiculous. Like, they were really like cheesy groups. There was no deep, real skills. It was just like in one group, I'll never forget it. They're like, whenever you feel the urge to hurt yourself or others, what I want you to do is play the alphabet game. So let's start with the letter A. Let's look around the room. What starts with the letter A? It was a hard game, actually. I had a really hard time. I was like, an A. I'm like thinking apple, you know, apricot. I don't know. Again, I'm not smart. So I'm like, what? Like, the game made no sense to me. And we had to go through the entire alphabet. Let me tell you, 26 letters of doing that. My mind was like numb. They were like, see, isn't it helping? I was like, I guess. I don't feel the urge to hurt anyone, but I have the urge to like fucking like, I don't even know, dude. It was like, it was so mind-numbing. There was no, that's not a skill. How is that a skill? Distracting myself with the alphabet game is a skill for my mental health when I'm a danger to myself. Like, that's all you've got? That's it? Like, it was so poorly run. Like, they did not give a flying fuckaroony. And I got to a point where I said, I'm leaving. I'm not staying here. It was like 2 days in, and I was like, I'm not fucking doing this. So I went to the front counter and I said, I'd like to check out, please. Like, it's a hotel. I was like, I'd like to check out. And they were like, why? And I was like, I don't like it here. I'm not getting any help. I don't want to be here anymore. So I'd like to leave by tomorrow morning. And one guy was very like gentle with me, like, well, what's going on? Let's talk about it. He was very nice. He was like, well, what's going on? What I didn't realize is that he was trying to get me to stay because he was not allowed to let me leave. I was there involuntarily, and I didn't know that. It wasn't until the nurse next to him had the grand idea of freaking out on me and saying, you're not going anywhere. You have to stay here. You don't get to choose when you leave. We choose when you leave. You will see your psychiatrist on Monday. Thank you very much. You can go sit down now. And that, you guys, it's so embarrassing to say, but I crashed out like I have never crashed out in my life. I didn't realize that I was trapped there. I didn't realize that I couldn't leave whenever I wanted, and I had never been through something like that. And if you've ever gone to jail, you know, like, you're tougher than me. I was fucking scared. I didn't know I couldn't just leave. And this psych ward was horrible. Like, there was no going outside. There was going out on the patio where the walls were like 20 feet in the air, and there was like a sliver of light that came through. I mean, it was miserable. I didn't want to be there, and I was just bawling my eyes out. I wanted to like really freak out physically, but I knew, like, if I freak out physically, they're not going to let me out. They're going to leave me here longer. And I just really lost it. I mean, I lost my mind. I couldn't believe that I was actually trapped somewhere. And the whole premonition of, you know, if you've seen my last video, my mom telling me growing up, don't tell people you have mental health issues because they'll lock you up and throw away the key. I felt like it was coming true. They had locked me up. They had thrown away the key. I didn't know when I was getting out. I have a job. I have a mortgage. I have a husband. Well, ex-husband now, but I was like, I can't be here forever. What do you mean? Who decides when I leave? Based on what? Like, based on what? I was just sick. I didn't want to be there. I was so homesick. I'm like a child on the inside. I was so scared. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to go home. I wanted my house. I wanted my cats. I wanted my food, my pillow, my music, my phone, my clothes. I wanted to leave, and they wouldn't let me. So the mean nurse gives me, like, I don't know, she gave me a pill. It calmed me down. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was Xanax or if it was Valium. I don't know, but whatever it was, that shit fucking helped. Let me tell you, it totally brought me down, and I just felt a lot better. And the next day, you know, she talked to me and was like, let's talk about why you're sorry. I had to play the part. I want to leave. I don't want to be here. So I was just like, yeah, you're right. I'm so sorry. What I did was not okay. Get me the fuck out of here. So it was crazy. I just, like, you had to play a part. And that nurse was not very nice, because several times I would tell her, they said you were going to bandage me up. Can I be bandaged up, please? She looked at my self-injury and went, you don't need anything. You're fine. It's not that bad. You work on a psych ward. Why would you say that to someone who's struggling? It's not that bad. I'm not giving you a Band-Aid. That scarred me. And I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but if you struggle with self-injury and a professional tells you, you're fine, that's one of the most horrific things you can ever do to somebody who's struggling. Horrific. And so they never bandaged me up. I have a scar now because they didn't help me. They didn't like bandage it or anything. It was horrible. Oh my God, it was so horrible. And so finally, you know, the next week comes, and, you know, my psychiatrist comes in. I don't even know this guy. He's like some Indian guy. I'm sure he's very smart and very professional, but I didn't know him. So I was trying to I was trying to tell him that I was cured. I was like, God, I've gotten so much help. These groups are wonderful. And you know what? I have a new sense of just joy for life. I love life. And you know what? I do want to live. I do. I want to live. Isn't that something else? When can I go home? I was hoping he'd let me home this day, because I'd really like to get back to work. Can we make that happen? He has seen it all before, let me tell you, because he was like, yeah, no, you're not going home. But I'm glad you're doing better. That's great. You can send in the next one now. damn it. So whatever. Days and days go by, man, dude, they would not let me out. Let me tell you, I was clinging to people like, oh, please. Then they would discharge and then I'd be alone again. The food. If you watch my last video, you know the first inpatient stay I had, food was just chef's kiss. This food was like cooked by someone who like secretly fucking hates you, but it's not so secret because you're looking at it and it looks like shit. And I don't mean to shit on these people. They're professionals. They do this for a living. I'm sure it's not easy feeding a million gazillion people every day. But like, I have dietary restrictions. They did not listen to me at all. So what I did is I didn't eat. When it came to meal times, I wouldn't eat. I'd sit there. And you know, the assistants would be like, are you gonna grab a tray? No. Eating disorder, raging. I was like, it was so bad. And they offered me no help. Me and another girl were not my roommate. She wasn't eating either. I mean, she was rail thin. We were both very similar. And so they didn't care. They didn't try to encourage us to eat. They didn't try to ask why. They would just stare right at us, sitting there, not eating. They didn't give a fuck. So, and then some of the men on that ward, really, really big jerks. Mean. I mean, I don't know. They're struggling too. I shouldn't be so quick to judge, but like, why do you have to make it hard? Like, you're going to put us on a ward with men and women, and you're not going to protect the women from the men. It's not like the women can do much to the men. It's not like we could do much to them. They were fucking huge grown men. Like, and this one guy, he was mean. He would take my snacks and like fucking crush them up and just pick on me. And then one time he was messing with my roommate. He just kept touching her and pushing her and she kept saying, stop touching me. And none of the nurses are paying attention or care. It's a very small ward. I mean, it's not like we were hidden. We're right in front of him. He kept touching her. He kept pushing her. He kept touching her. He kept pushing her. She kept saying, stop. He would not listen. And I told him, I said, quit fucking touching her. And he looked at me and he like knocked into her again. Mind you, my drink was not that hot, okay? But I took my little cup of coffee, which was not boiling hot, okay? I'm not that crazy. And I just splashed him with it all over. And he was like, like shocked. And I was like, yeah, motherfucker. I said, we're all crazy in here with you, dude. It's not just fucking you. We all can snap. I said, fuck off. I've never done that before. I've never done that. But I was just like, when you are locked in a hospital against your will, I'm telling you guys, you really do start to go stir crazy. You lean into the trapped animal in a cage feeling. I mean, you can't help it. You have no autonomy. You have no choice. It's just so hard. I mean, it's so hard. It really does make you act like a lunatic. The only saving grace was the activity person there. She was a music teacher and did art, and she was so cool and she was so nice. She was the only one who was trying to reach us and bring us to the light and bring us to where we could find meaning in life again. I mean, she was so cool. And it made me want to do something like that for a living, like do activities for people in a locked ward. Like, I just thought she was so wonderful. She really was the only person who like was kind to us. And we only got to go see her like 30 minutes every couple of days. How much can you do in 30 minutes? I mean, we'd be rushing our projects and shit because like they would tell you got to go. It's time to go. Like, it was not relaxing. It was just sucked. It really fucking sucked. But it was necessary. And let me tell you, when it was finally time for me to discharge and they decided I was fucking healed, they were like, you know, they let me out of the ward and I was in the main part of the hospital and they were trying to get me to go back into the locked waiting room. And I froze. They were like, yeah, let's come in here and talk. I said, I'm not going in there. They were like, what? Just come in here. I said, I'm not fucking going in there. I said, I don't trust you. And they were like, what? But I was like, no. And they were like, we just want to talk. I ran out the hospital doors as fast as I fucking could. I had my phone, they gave me my shit back. I ran and I ran and I ran and I ran blocks away because I was so scared they were gonna like pick me up and take me back. Like, it made no sense, I know, but it was so scary. It was so fucking scary. And then I had to have someone pick me up like blocks down the road. Thank God I had a ride, but it was just really horrific, you guys. It was a horrible, horrible fucking stay. And that just scratches the surface of it. And ever since then, ever since I got out of that ward, I told myself I'm never, ever going back to some place like this ever again. I'm never doing it. And I haven't. Should I probably have? Yeah. Have I been really close? Yes. Have I lied my way out of it? Oh, absolutely. I don't want to go back. So my life currently is just about, hey again, sorry guys, my phone storage got really full, but I just wanted to actually have an ending to this video. So basically that was my second inpatient stay. I'm really trying so hard to never have to go back. That's why I'm really focused on outpatient therapy, just, you know, diving into my art and music and things that are actually gonna help me, having an identity outside of my fucking misery, having a sense of self outside of the trauma that I've endured, you know? And it's a really hard journey. I know it's going to be worthwhile, and I know I'm getting better, but boy, when they say recovery isn't linear, they mean that shit, because I've gotten better and I've gotten worse, but you know what? I've always kind of been on the incline, and thank God for that. So I am sorry that that video got cut off really awkwardly. Thank you for watching this long ass video. Again, just scratching the surface. But if you have ever had a really scary experience being inpatient in a mental ward, I want to hear about it. If you feel comfortable enough sharing some of the shit that you've seen, the things you've heard, good or bad, I want to hear about it. I really want to connect with people who know how this feels, because it's not something you can really bring up in the real world unless you want to be looked at like you're a fucking nutcase. So if you guys wouldn't mind dropping a comment below, I want to meet some of you guys. I'll give you a follow back. You know, let's get to know each other a little bit, because I need a community of people who get it, please. So anyway, I'm going to end it here. Love you all so much, and I'll see you in the next one.